Tonight I'm removing the original suspension bushes from the MX5, and I'm doing it with my favourite thing ever, fire. I tried doing it the proper way and it was just a pain in the ass, going really slow, and having to do stuff. This, I just make a little stand and let the fuckers burn, and it just falls out. I mean, you let it burn for a bit, and then the internal metal bit falls out. Job done. Quite often if you leave it, and if these are standing up, the actual bushes fall out on its own. On a cold winter's day like this, nice and warm doing this, isn't it? Watch. Okay. Then the outer bush usually stays in there for a bit, and then that'll come out after. So you just leave it to burn. Don't know if you can see, but it looks like it's coming out the bottom now, look. It's literally just starting to fall out. The rubber burns away, and the outer bit of metal on these just comes out. This one's smelly and dirty, but it's the least amount of effort, and it's kind of fun. Typically I miss that on camera, but the outer metal from that just fell out, and that's it there. And the outer one from that's already gone now. And I'll leave that because it just burns away the other shit. Well, that's all the bushes out. Quick update, I didn't film any of this because, to be fair, it is not at all exciting. I have obviously burnt all the bushes out as you saw, then cleaned it out with wire wheel, and give all the whole rear suspension and diff set up a once over with the wire wheel to clean all off, you know, surface rust and the usual crap. They come up all right. I mean, and then all I've done is painted everything in anti-rust primer, basically. RX90 is called, this stuff. Thomas swears by it, says it's really good. I've never used it before, but looks, he used it on everything and he says it's brilliant. So I've literally coated everything in it. To be honest, half the rear diff is bloody, all this lot is alloy, so it didn't need it, but I was just went to town with everything because it's primer as well, and it stops any crap getting on it. So now this is done, I'm going to give everything a light coat with just normal satin black. The reason being, A, it looks alright, but the reason I'm saying satin black is because unlike most other paints, you can just touch up satin black in 2 seconds with the spray can again any other time. So while this stuff's pretty hard wearing, no doubt the satin black's gonna get marks or come off or whatever over time. But unlike another colour, it just means I can very, very quickly touch it all up. And also it's quite subtle, because I've kind of got it in my head, I want this thing, like all my stuff really, to be a sleeper. I was at first, because I had a load of silver paint, I thought just for fun I was going to spray everything silver, because you should be able to see under the back from the back bumper being cut. And, you know, to people who didn't know any better, that it might look like all fancy, you know, silver alloy arms, even though it's silver paint on steel arms, although these are light as hell anyway. But no, I'm going to satin black everything, just for ease of maintenance in the future, really, to just keep everything looking tidy, because this is obviously a car I'm going to be keeping long term. So, well, nothing's easier than satin black, to be fair. So that's what I'm going to do now. That's the first quick layer of everything satin blacked. Obviously still wet now, so it's not as satin as it will be, but yeah, looking all right. Obviously I've got to flip everything over and do the other side. No doubt I will run out of paint before I finish it. They only bought 4 little cans because, well, I didn't really plan to do this until the last minute. But that's that. I'll leave that to dry now and get on with some other stuff. I've got all the rear bushes in. Obviously all the arms are all painted. One rear bush is still being a bit of a bugger, that one there. But I'll carry on fighting that to get it in, but all the others are in okay. So yeah, decent progress. Nothing you can see really without getting under, and it's still not interesting, but anywhere that needed a little bit of welding, so there, and a couple of the rear arch pockets needed a tiny bit, and a couple of bits on the chassis rails just where it had scraped along the ground in the past, obviously being low, and I'd rubbed on there and literally rubbed some of the metal off. A few little places like that where I've welded it up. I literally have welded it up and zinc primered, anti-rust primered, and then put a bit of seam sealer on it. So the car is, to the best of what I can see, completely solid now, which is a rarity for an MX5. The paint's still appalling, but that's going to be taken care of. But I mean, look, I can physically peel the paint off. But anyway, yeah, progress. And a few hours later, that is a complete rebuilt MX5 rear subframe and diff and all that shit, with all the poly bushes everywhere. So that's poly every bush and the diff mounts and everything all back together. And to be fair, I'm pretty chuffed with my work, I must admit. I wouldn't say it was easy, because I wouldn't entirely say these bushes were super accurately built. You know, I got them in, and once they're in, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's all together, it all works. I greased up everything so it's shouldn't seize up anytime soon, and I de-rusted everything I could, and yeah, it was pretty decent. But as you can see, poly bushed everything, including diff mounts. See over there, look. And yeah, it weren't too bad. I kind of had it in my head it was going to be worse than this. Putting it back together was a bit of a head scratcher, because I'd removed all the nuts and bolts and put them in a bag. So it was a case of like working out what was almost certainly correct, and then, you know, the things I weren't sure of narrowed down as I, you know, got to the end. But overall, not too bad. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Right, I think that's me done for tonight, because, well, I've done plenty. I've had enough now. I've lost motivation. It's about 9 o'clock, I think. But here's where we are. Obviously, boot floor's out, seam sealed, done. Whole rear end stripped, poly bushed, anti-rust primered, painted, put back together, all good. The few holy parts in the car, which was both inner rear arch pocket things, the bottoms of the chassis rails, not because they'd rusted, but because they'd scraped through, you know, from the car going over speed bumps and stuff and being low over the years. A tiny hole at the front, and that's it. It's very rust free, which is good. So yeah, done all that. Need to get the seats in. Need to build the engine. I've got most of the parts for that, including the cam, which I can't show you because I forgot to bring it with me, but I've got a fancy cam for it now. I need to buy decent head bolts, decent springs and retainers for it. Apart from that, I think I've got everything. I've got rods and all that. So I need to port the head and, yeah, go to town on that. I need to buy a clutch and flywheel, which I'm not looking forward to because that will not be cheap, because I want a really light one, and that equals money, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not exactly made of money, and I got to take into account, like, I got other projects I want to spend money on too. So I'm probably not going to go for a full cage. I'm going to go for just a rear roll bar. The only big disadvantage of not having a full cage on this is the full track drift days they do at Pembury require a full cage. And yeah, so that's a bit of a shitter. But I can still do the normal Pembury drift days because they just need the rear cage. So whatever, it's a shame, but I can't justify the extra sort of £1,000 plus just for that. It just, no, I can't do it. The other thing I am currently contemplating not spending a big load of money on is something most people would be like, oh no, you can't do that, is the coilovers. I know everybody, was like, oh, gotta buy this, gotta buy that, and everyone seems to say like these various coilovers that's on the market as sort of £800 minimum. You have to have them. But the thing is, this is what, my 6th or 7th MX5, and nearly all the ones before that had basically cheapy coilovers on them, Pro Sports and shit like that. They were all used hard as fuck on road and track, and I had no problems with them. The Cosy one I had came to me with fancy fucking Bilsteins on it, and I can honest to God tell you, that car handled no better than any of the ones with the other stuff on it, on road or track. In fact, when I bought it, it handled way fucking worse because the geometry was all over the place, because the previous owner was scared of it and changed the geometry to some understeery shite. But the actual, coilover function, the spring and shock, there was no advantage over the cheapy stuff I've had, be it road or track use. So, granted, I may change it in the future, and if somebody wants to fucking, I'm going to put some, I honestly think I'm going to put some £250 whatever's on, max speeding rods, Pro Sports, whatever, on it, because I've run them before and they're fine on MX5s, the way I drive. Maybe people are different, but, the way I drive, hard, they seem absolutely fine, and they never broke on me, nothing. Half the time, I think people just slag them off because they know no different, but whatever. Yeah. And if anybody wants to be like, oh, well, they're shit, fucking buy me some then. Buy me some better ones. Prove me wrong. But I ain't fucking, I ain't made of money, so I'm not going to buy them. Maybe one day in the future. But I want to get this thing on the road, and I'm confident those coilovers are not going to be holding me back. And I want to get this on the road and enjoying it, and then get on with the Corolla. So, spend, I'd rather not have to spend another 500-600 quid plus that I could be spending finishing this off, or the Corolla off, just because people told me to, when my experiences have said different. I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I'm not spending 600 quid to prove myself wrong, put it that way. So, right, hope you enjoyed this video, and wow, I'm just pleased I've made some decent progress. So I will see you next time. Bye bye. Before I go, I better show you some stuff. See here, we have various engines. Ignore the V8 because that's being, we've got a plan for that, but all of these engines, so we got the, I think it's called a 1ZZ, the 1.8 135 140 brake Toyota engine, very unremarkable thing. This is a 1.9 JTD Fiat Alfa Romeo whatever turbo diesel engine, which are pretty ignored in the UK, but are like ridiculously tunable, like 400 brake on stock internals, not a problem sort of thing. And down the back, out of sight, I'm not going to show you them because you've seen them all before, are a load of 1.9 TDIs. But what you can't see anymore, which you'd have probably seen on an earlier video, is the Honda K24 that was here. And the one thing all these engines have in common was Thomas was umming and ahhing about which one to have in his MR2, his Mark 3 MR2, that is daily drives basically. Obviously that's the original engine and was in it until a couple of days ago. But he's been backwards and forwards between the K24, which he bought to fit, a 1.9 TDI, or even, and this was the latest contender, this Alfa Fiat, whatever you want to call it, JTD engine. All good for different reasons. But he was like, one day he was that, one day he was the other, and he was just changing his mind constantly. Well, yesterday when I wasn't here, he basically fitted the K24. So yeah, it's already in. I can't really show you very well from here, but that is a Honda K24. To the extent that the water lines, the clutch line, you know, most stuff is already in. He honestly says he can probably get it in and out within like 15 minutes now he's worked out how to do it the first time round. So yeah, Honda K24 is what Thomas's MR2 is now going to be powered by. He's going to have a full video on the install on his YouTube channel shortly, so get over there and subscribe to his so you can check out all his stuff, because as you can imagine with Thomas, this isn't going to stay a standard K24, is it? You know what I mean? Not in a million years. So yeah, and even a standard K24 in a 1,000 kilo Mark 3 MR2 would be rapid, but this ain't going to be standard. I mean, there's a skunk 2 inlet manifold just here, to be fair. So yeah, get on his channel because this thing's going to be mental.